Alright, what's up everyone? So I wanted to do a quick video about Twin M's tanking as a Warlock. I've been looking, trying to find some information, and it's not really clear out there, so I'm going to go through kind of the basics, but in a quick way. So your consumables that you should be using, your gear that you can use and the gear that you should be using, and so sort of positioning and some tips while tanking. So I'm going to go through just my stream from the other night about from AQ40. I'll just start it off real quick. So what we're doing is we're grabbing, this is the Emperor, this is the one you'll be tanking. He's the one that has the offhand. The other one with the sword is the one that only takes melee. So you want to grab, if you're the one pulling as the Warlock tank, depending where you tank, some people tank over here in this corner on the other side of the steps. So this is the back of the room. So we'll grab them, I kite them, we kite them on the stairs where the melee is. So let me pause this real quick. So I'll try to get him as close to this corner as possible. You're kiting to try to get him to the corner. Once you get him here, you can come back down and tank. I'm getting bombed by heals. I have about 215, 220, maybe closer to 250 shadow resistance right now. Let's pause again. So here, the teleport happened. What happens when the teleport does come through? So the melee boss, they both switch. If they're too close, they're going to heal. That's the simple mechanic of the fight. The melee boss does a big cleave, and he does a knockback sometimes. He also he queues up an ability, I don't know the name of it, but he hits the tank pretty hard. So you'll see melee does this. You'll see the timer for the teleport. In this phase, you kind of just want to make sure you have full mana. Once you get closer to the teleport, you should be using Shadow Ward. So see, I pop a Shadow Ward there. That absorbs like 500 damage. It's not big, but it helps the heals out. So on the teleport, you want to try to get closer to the tank. So here my tank was taking a bit of time to get out of range. I didn't want to get too close. So if you get too close, when the teleport happens, you might get hit by, the teleport does damage. So don't stand right on the boss. It could cause some issues. So then you want to just spam Searing Pain, spam Searing Pain, spam Searing Pain. Over and over and over. You're going to get bombed by heals. You can see with my amount of resist here, I got pulled off by an ignite tick, which was pretty crazy since I did not expect it. So here I'm going to go back. Here I run over and I do a bit of dots just in case, just to get some damage in. And then I tap and I tell my healers, listen, I don't need any healing. I'm just going to bandage on this one. Here they did. So I pop Shadow Ward, teleport's coming up. I try to get in front of the tank. Again, still a bit slow, so you guys start spamming Searing Pain as soon as he teleports. He teleports over, and you just spam your Searing Pain, spam your Searing Pain. You want to be number one on threat at all times. And then when the next teleport happens, the warrior tank will get in front of you, he'll get more threat, and then you swap. So here I'm a bit low on mana. I didn't tap him here. I probably should have, but I was just checking where the positioning was because they were healing a bit since they got a bit too close. So here I get hit by that Arcane Burst. This is a pretty important part of the fight. I got too close. So if you get too close, you're going to get hit by that Arcane Explosion. You're going to get knocked back. You're going to take a lot of damage. And then you get slowed. So you get knocked out of range. And then you can't even do your casts. So you want to get back into range. And this is a good example of when you could use a Shadow Protection pot. So here you can see my pot was still on cooldown for 2 seconds. Because I had used one earlier from kind of panicking at the heals. So that would be a good point. Whenever you get hit by abilities that aren't the Shadow Bolt, that are unpredictable, that might cause spikes, that's when you want to use your Shadow Protection pots. You don't want to use your Shadow Protection pots just willy-nilly to save some healer mana. They have their own mana pots and they have their MP5. It shouldn't be needed to really save. So again, it's rinse and repeat. As soon as he's about to teleport, you go in front of the tank, because what happens is whoever's closest to the boss when he teleports gets a big aggro lead. So here, this was an interesting one as well. So there's a blizzard that dropped here. That's the next one of his abilities. He does Arcane Explosion, a blizzard, and his Shadow Bolt. So the Shadow Bolt is what we're tanking. That's why we have a lot of Shadow Resist. And the blizzard can be put anywhere. So it can be put on your healers. It can be put right on you. It can be put pretty much anywhere on a range. So that would be a good point another time that you could use a Shadow Resist pot. I did use one there, So see it's on cooldown there because I had to move out of the way and I might have got hit by 1 or 2 of the blizzard ticks. So I didn't want to take too much damage. So I took that pot and I backed out of the blizzard. And then, so again, rinse and repeat. I pop my Shadow Ward and get back to tanking. So here, he's taking a bit of hits because again, our swaps were not ideal, but we're getting it. So here, again, Blizzard, they hit my healers. If I would have had a pot, that would have been another good time to pot because my healers had to move. They wouldn't have been able to spam healing on me. Luckily, we had 2-3 dedicated healers to this, so we were doing okay. I actually popped a Shadow Ward during that time just to help a bit. It's not a crazy amount of damage saving, but it does help. So again, keep them distance. Your melee should be moving out around 1, 2. Here we're trying to burn because it was getting low. Again, pop your Shadow Ward, do your Searing Pain spam, and it should be pretty easy to get them down. It's really reliant on your healers' mana and your healer's ability to move out of things, but as well as the Warlock's ability to use your advantages when you tap. Make sure you save some healer mana. Use your Shadow Ward. Use your Health Stone. What else can be helpful? Using the proper consumes. So I'm going to do a pause right here, and I'm going to do a quick look at our consume. So we had actually lost our world buff, so here I actually used my speed Zanza, but anyways, that's not what you should be using. So all your regular consumes, I mean your greater arcane elixirs, your shadow, actually not shadow power on this one. The flask is kind of debatable depending on your guild. You can use spell power or you can use Flask of the Titans. I was actually using Flask of the Titans here, but next week I'm probably going to switch over to spell power. We'll see how it goes. And then some other consumes that are kind of off the list and a bit different than usual. So I'm going to just do here. So these are the ones that I would recommend. They give a little extra added boost, and I'll actually have to probably move since. So Gift of Arthas, this is kind of an unknown pot. No one really uses this. It's pretty cheap on most servers, so it just gives you an extra 10 shadow resist. The rest of the thing doesn't really. The rest of the proc is not important. It's for a melee proc, but really good. 10 bonus. It's free. It doesn't go with any other pots. Very useful. This is the Greater Shadow Protection pot, so the GSPP, as a lot of people refer them to. This is good for your oh shit moments. Some people like to pre-pop them. I'd say it's good if you're the second tank, but depending on your server, these can be pretty expensive. Like on our server, it's up to like 15 gold per, so pretty big chunk of change there for each pot. So if you're popping to a fight and you're wiping a bit, it's getting pretty expensive. So this is a good for your oh shit moment. These are also very expensive, but they're new with Phase 5. You can also use the Rum something like that from DM, the Gordok. Sorry, it's not the Rumsey, it's the Gordok Green Grog, I think is what it's called. That gives you 10 stamina. This one here gives you 15 stamina, so that's a good amount of that's a good chunk of health. Definitely good to use stam food just to boost your health just a bit. Keeping on the health train, Elixir of Fortitude. These are also pretty cheap. Gives you 120. It's about 12 stam, so it's an extra little bit of health just to help out. So since you're spamming Searing Pain, I'm gonna have to move out of the way here. Elixir of Greater Firepower. It's pretty much your Shadow Power pot. Instead, it'll replace it for this. Since you're not really using much Shadow, you might use a Curse of Agony. You might use a Shadow Bolt once in a while, but mainly you'll be focusing on your Searing Pain and maybe sometimes Immolate if it allows you. But you should be mostly focused on spamming that Searing Pain. So it gives you an extra 40 fire damage. And finally, what I was talking about, the Zanzas. So if you don't know what this is your they cost 1 Bijou, so you gotta destroy your Bijou, get the rep token, and then you turn it in for the Spirit of Zanza. So it gives you 50 stamina for and 50 spirit, but it's more the stamina that you want. So that's 500 health. For tanking them, you'll be a lot more. You'll be a lot tankier. I can actually, if I can hide this, there you go. So you can use this as well. So with all these consumes, you should be at a pretty good amount of resistance, a pretty good amount of stamina. There is another resistant pot, the magic resist pot, but it doesn't stack with the priest buff. So your other consumes that you can use, not your other consume, sorry, your other buffs that you can use to help you get to the resistance. So you have your priest, your priest shadow protection buff. That's 60 resistance extra. With your gift of Arthas that we have here, that's 10 resistance extra. So now we're at 70. Your Druid gift of the wild, depending if he's spec'd into the improved one, that's another 20 to 27. So we'll say 20 just for the sake of keeping it low. So we're at 70. That's 90 resist from buffs. Your lock, your warlock, so your demon armor, or that you have up on you anyways, that gives you 15 resistance. So now we're at 105, and then there's also, sorry, not 105, 95, right? Yeah, 95. And then if you're a undead, you can have an extra 10 just by your passive. So with that, it'll bring you to about 100 from buffs and racials. That's pretty good amount. And then I'll check out my character right now and check out some gears. So there's a lot of options, there's a lot of gears that give, there's a lot of green items that give saddle resistance, but I mean, what we did as a guild is we were hoping to get between 100 to 150 unbuffed. So just quickly looking at it, right now I have 127. I'll go through each of my pieces. You don't have to use these pieces, you can use other pieces, but these are good. You know, you keep some. I still have 500 shadow damage. I still have actually some buffs here, so I'll take those off. Yeah, I still have 425 unbuffed. I'm at 6% hit. I would like to have a bit more hit, but I mean, for the sake of staying alive, I was keeping it low. I have 4k health unbuffed with my Spirit of Zanza, Fortitude, my flask. I was up to, I think, almost 7k health, so I was able to tank a good 2-3 Shadow Bolts together. So for the helm, I just have the tier 2 helm. I could probably swap this for 100 health enchant if I wanted to. I actually have another I have another helm in the bank from just killing Ani so many times. I could probably put 100 health on here. I probably should. This is just Choker the Filer, no resistance on this. There are the option if you don't have a good neck with a lot of spell power, you can use a 21 just a shadow resist neck, a green off the auction house. That's a pretty good option. Your shoulder pads, another one that I should get enchanted. You can go to Argent Dawn if you're, I think it's above friendly. You can get the 5 shadow resist, so that gives you 7 here plus 5, so it'll be 12 shadow resist on this piece alone. You can keep your Nemesis on or your Cabal if you want, if that's your big damage piece. But again, this is a good option. It has a lot of stam. 25 stam is a good amount. So my cloak, I'm just using the cloak of consumption. I want some hit and I want some damage. Plus I have the 5 resist on there. There is a 10 shadow resist enchant, but I like the overall enchant since there's a lot of other damage sources coming out. Another good piece is your Nemesis robes. A lot of stamina on them. The resist is not on there, which is kind of a bummer. There is a trash drop in AQ that you might get before or after, depending how many times you clear AQ, where you're gonna get I think it's a 25 shadow resist plus some spell power plus a 2% hit on it. So it's a really good piece that if you do get it to drop, it's pretty nice. Slap 100 HP on there, and it's a pretty good tanky piece. My braces are basic, arcane accuracy, nothing fancy there. It's the standard from your BIS list from BWL. Claw, nothing there for resist. One of my trinkets, I'm using one Ultra Flash instead of using my Toe Whip or my ZG trinket, my Zendalari. It gives you 20 Shadow Resist. The actual use does not actually work for the Shadow Bolt. I tested it multiple times yesterday. Kind of a bummer. It would have been nice if it could have reflected, but it does not do any reflect. My ring, I'm using, this is the AQ40 ring. Gives you crit hit, just a bit of stam. You could use other rings too. If you have Force Concentration, Dark Dominion would probably be a bad choice for here, since we're doing fire damage most of the fight. But anything, if you have a Force Concentration, that could be a good option too. Yeah, Force Cons would be good too. Instead, you could do that as well if you want your hit, because it's good to not miss any Searing Pains. Other Shadow Resist, these are really good pieces. Again, I made these last night, so I didn't have time to enchant them. But these are 20 Shadow Resist. Get a nice stamina enchant on there. Move speed,
not crazy important in my opinion for this fight. Put some salmon on there, get more survivability. Next piece, same set, the Ruined Stygian. I don't know how to say it, but 25. So just these two pieces alone give you 45 shadow resist and some nice amount of stamina. I mean, the MP5 is whatever. Tap your life away. Nemesis Belt. That one has 10 shadow resist. I like to use at least the 3-piece on this fight. So I'm using the chest as well. The chest could go away if I got the other chest that I was talking about for trash. But this has 10 shadow resist on there. Pretty nice. And then the gloves have 10 shadow resist as well for Nemesis gloves. So this is a pretty good basic set, and most of these items aren't too hard to get. I mean, like offhand and whatever that I'm using, you can fill in with whatever you want depending on what your gear is. But this gives you a good base of I'm about 127. So if you pop here, I'll get 100, and this gives you 15 more. So plus your buffs, you get about, we were talking about 90 to 100 extra using your consumes. So I'm at about 225 to 230 right now. Pretty good base, depending on your healer core and your ability as a raid to keep you up and keep you alive. That's a good amount to go with. So hope this was helpful, and hope you guys got something out of it. If you have any questions, go ahead and shoot me in the comments, and be happy to answer. Take care.